and welcome to Ms. Gimbel's classroom. Today we're going to talk about using feedback effectively in both online and in-person classrooms with a focus on Google Jamboard, but also best practice and best research to use with your students. The most important part of working in an effective classroom and having effective feedback is the classroom culture. It is the teacher and student mindset that allows feedback loops to be effective, both between teacher and student, but also peer-to-peer. If students can take ownership of their learning, feedback can both be used to process errors of their work in their past, but also think about how to make their work better for the future. Let's talk about how we can use Google Jamboard online to ensure students are getting the best feedback, both from us, the teachers, but also from each other. I've done another video on Google Jamboard that you can check if you subscribe to my channel, as you can see below. But to get to Google Jamboard, you need a Google account, and you go to jamboard.google.com. To create a new Jamboard, I've got to move my face, you click on this plus button. It creates a new Jamboard, and you can create multiple slides. Jamboard is super easy because you can copy and paste anything onto the screen, and then you can go ahead and you can click editing tools, sticky notes, pictures, shapes, and text box. You could also use a fun laser pointer that goes away to point something out for students to identify. Once you've created one slide, you can then duplicate a slide as many times as you'd like. And we're going to use that feature for today's lesson. So the lesson I want to examine is a lesson that I did with students in identifying population density in a geometry class. In this class, we used an open-ended question. So the prompt asked, based on COVID restrictions, if every person needs a 6 feet around them in each direction, how many people could fit into the store? As you can see, I provided the measurements of the store very generally, but I didn't identify the measurements of anything inside of the store. I didn't talk about how big people were, or how big the doorways were, or the racks or anything. This provided the students to have an open-ended question to discuss with each other the answer and identify what techniques they needed to use in order to solve. This is a perfect example of a low boundary to entry, but a high ceiling question for students to engage in problem solving. Now for this class, I've put the students into groups. Each group got their own slide. As you can see, they began with a sticky note where they should put their group names. It's easy to edit. They could just click on the sticky note and then change what their names are. Right there. Then they engaged. I gave them some amount of time to engage in problem solving. As they engaged in problem solving, I can go through and I can identify who's on which slide, and I wrote in comments to give some feedback in the learning process for the students. However, using this Jamboard, you can actually bring your feedback levels to the feedback loops to the next level. As students began to finish up the question, I had them rotate to the different slides. So for example, students who are on slide 5 would move to slide 6. Then students could drop sticky notes with different feedback for each other. This allowed this peer-to-peer interaction, and every student was doing it, so to give that feedback for each other. Once they have provided that feedback and looked at a different way of solving the question, or saw things that were clear or were not clear in other students' problems, they then shifted back to their original slides where they could rethink about their answer and apply that feedback in real time. This is both error analysis for them looking at somebody else's feedback, but also thinking about that feedback for the future. Now, because I have access to the full Jamboard, while the students are working, I could shift through each slide and in either a different color sticky note or by writing, I could also identify things that students needed to work on and provide them feedback in real time. The last step of this activity is a third level to provide students the opportunity to receive and give feedback. We brought the groups back together and had a share out. Each group shared out what they did, and every group had a chance to give additional out loud feedback to each other. In this way, we use this technology tool to provide feedback to all students, both from instructor, also peer-to-peer. This is a great way to ensure students are taking ownership over work and are using best practice to get feedback. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel below for more education tips on best practice in research.